Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about Age of Mythology Retold. And in this video I'm going to be talking about the best and the worst gods for a beginner player. Now things like power and ease of use are important of course, but also learning the right lessons, because you may have a very easy to use god, a very powerful god, but at the same time you will not be learning the right lessons, like things like map control, taking action instead of just sitting on your ass. Because if you get used to the idea, oh, I can win by just turtling up in your base, yeah, until you encounter a decent opponent who will just obliterate you, because they understand map control, they understand the need for action, they understand proper build orders, all those kind of things. So starting this out, we'll start with Hades, and he's an F tier god. Not because he's weak, no. Hades is very, very strong. His defenses are strong. In fact, so strong that he's going to teach people the wrong lessons. You can win with the defensive playstyle as Hades by giving up map control, by not taking action, by not expanding. He's great for a veteran player, someone who knows what they're doing, someone who understands, like, yeah, you have more powerful defenses, go out there and do stuff. But if you're a new player and you're just getting started with the game, I would not recommend Hades. He's going to teach you the wrong lessons. One of the principles for this particular list is what I always think about is the Hun dilemma in Age of Empires 2. See, the Huns are a really powerful choice in Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, but because they don't have to worry about houses, while they're powerful, they're not teaching new players the right lessons. It's not quite the same thing with Hades, but just the fact that you get extra defenses for free from the start of the game, more durable myth units, powerful range, free upgrades, is going to teach players the wrong lessons. Then we have Zeus. Zeus is an S tier, from my perspective. I could drop him down to A tier, but then I wouldn't necessarily have that many people or anyone in S tier. It's a bit of a discussion. See, the reason for Zeus, he gets more powerful heroes, but you have to use them, of course. And on top of that, if you've played the campaign, which I assume a lot of, beginner players, they're going to jump into the campaign, they're going to play at least a couple of missions before they're jumping into multiplayer. Zeus is a great choice for these kind of people. Because while obviously the skirmish and multiplayer heroes are nowhere near as powerful as the campaign ones, Zeus does make them more powerful. They get more HP, they train faster, you get the favor benefit, you get cheaper myth units in terms of population, you have a good selection of gods, and I think Greeks in general are a good starting choice for a lot of players. That's why I recommend Zeus. Hades just goes a bit too further in the defensive playstyle, and not in the sense of active defense, it's more passive defense, whereas with Zeus, you do get more power, to be certain. He's an easy-to-use god. He's easily understandable, digestible for anyone who's playing the game, starting a couple of missions. So I would recommend him. Then we have Poseidon. I think Poseidon is either A or B. I think I'm going to go with A. He does have cavalry benefits, to be sure. He does have food benefits, but similar to Zeus, he's easily understood for anyone who's playing the game. He has a comfortable playstyle. He is decently powerful. Not too ridiculously powerful. That's the thing about the Greeks. Or at least Poseidon and Zeus. They are powerful, but they're not the most powerful in the game. They have their weaknesses, right? For both of them. And that's why I'd recommend Poseidon. Not quite up there on the same level of Zeus, but still a fairly good choice for anyone starting the game. Zeus is a great choice. Just worth pointing this out, but I would recommend people get outside their comfort zone and go do stuff with other races or other civilizations and other gods than just playing Greeks. Like, there's quite a few people I meet on online games, oh, I'm just going to play Greeks because that's what I'm used to. So that's one of the downsides, I would say. One of the reasons I would consider taking Zeus from the S tier, because yeah, it gets people comfortable. You need to experiment with different civilizations to understand what they're going to throw against you. Then we have Oranos. Oranos is focused on scouting. He's focused on vision. So he's a good choice from that particular perspective. Map control, call to action, all those things. But at the same time, I just don't think he's necessarily as great of a god to really qualify him more than either B or really C tier. Like, seriously. He's decent, don't get me wrong, and Atlanteans are a powerful civilization, absolutely. But at the same time, there's also some wrong lessons you can learn with Atlanteans, because, yeah, citizens not requiring you as many villagers to accomplish the same task, having more durability, and not needing storehouses, can absolutely teach you the very wrong lessons. Then we get to Gaia. So on one hand, if you're a beginner player, Gaia is probably one of the easiest gods to understand. You don't need storehouses. You get a significant lumber benefit. You get a significant starting benefit with your citizens, because you start with hero citizens that are just flat out better than the others. So all of those benefits are really strong. They're economic benefits. And really, the lush that you have is a defensive benefit. But I do also think that Gaia does sacrifice some offensive power, or just power in general, militarily speaking, for that economy. So you do have a stronger economy, but you don't necessarily have the same military might or offensive might or that some other choices do have. Like Lightning Bolt and powerful heroes, easily understood, right? Powerful. Lore, getting animals to you. Whereas with Gaia, yeah, you get trees, but you still have to go out there for food, and you still have to go out there for gold. So I'm a bit torn on this one, really. Where would I put Gaia? Like, there's a temptation, I admit, to put her in S tier. Absolutely. But I think I'm going to put her in either A or B. I think I'm going to go with A. Just the ease of use, right? Just to get people more comfortable playing the game is actually an important fact. Like, it's all about, like, the dilemma. Like, what's important, right? Is it power? Is it ease of use? Is it people getting comfortable? I think if you're trying to move past the Greeks and playing something else, I think Gaia and the Atlanteans in general are a great choice from that perspective. Getting a bit outside your comfort zone over there, but still having enough power to get going. And just keep in mind, though, don't overestimate the power you have, because there are weaknesses that Gaia does have, absolutely, and people need to learn that aspect. Then we have Kronos. So with Kronos, I think he's going to be a B tier. He's great on the offense, not necessarily so great on defense, but the ability of deconstructing buildings does give you a good amount of offensive power over there in terms of like early game aggression. If you're playing Kronos, you want to go for early game aggression quite well. But he's not necessarily as easy to use as, say, Gaia, not necessarily as comfortable as Gaia is, or Poseidon, or Zeus. Then we go with Set. Interesting choice over there. So Set is a really, really powerful god. An absolutely one. He gets animals. He does get benefits to the barracks through the monuments. He does have vision on the map as well. Really powerful choice for the sake of multiplayer, but I can't quite recommend him in either S or A tier, really. Egyptians are a bit of a tricky one to learn. Like, they have a really powerful economy, but their military, at least initially, is certainly lacking compared to the other races. So that can be a bit of a shock for new players to learn to deal with, like, okay, I can get a more powerful economy than other people, but you do have downsides in terms of construction times, for instance, and the quality of the units that you do have available early on. Then we have Isis. So my view on Isis, she has a significant gold benefit to herself. She has a significant defensive benefit, in a way, kind of. Because you can neutralize certain god powers that are used on you, but it's all about the strategic placement of your monuments. You are still vulnerable when you're playing Isis. Understand that. You're still vulnerable if you're playing Isis, because if you're not building your base properly, if you're not ensuring that your base is properly defended, opponents will find the gap over there in your monument coverage and use it against you. And while that gold benefit is significant and can give you that early game advantage, it also means that you will run out of gold mines and you will have to go out there. So I think Isis Probably an S tier, really. Like, yeah, I think like Isis is absolutely an S tier faction. If you're just starting and you want to get used to the Egyptians, she's nice, she's comfortable to actually play. And understood, like, you get more gold. Nope, don't use that gold power right from the start, because that's a mistake that will cost you. Because using it the second time will take a decent amount of favor. But good selection of gods, good amount of power that is available with Isis, and easily digestible and understood. Ra, F tier. Like, no discussion. Ra, unlike Hades. So Ra, unlike Hades, is actually not that great. He's not the weakest, far from it, but he's more of a long-term god, right? And let me just say this as well about him. Like, oh, you can empower stuff. Yeah, that is a real trap that you can fall into with him. It's like, oh, I just want to empower everything. Don't do that. Like, that is a long-term benefit. Consider the cost you're paying for every priest that you're getting. They're not cheap. And his innate god power, his entire design as a god is more suited for team play as opposed to 1v1. And don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I'm going to get farms early game. No, you want to hunt until it becomes, like, you want to push the hunting boundaries as much as possible with any civilization. You want to go out there, you want to have map control, you want to fight over the map, you want to get those animals. Ra is not a great choice from that perspective, because it might lead a lot of people to think, oh, I can just build farms and they'll generate decent food, right, with the rainfall and all that. Yeah, don't go for that. Farms are a long-term benefit. It depends on the map control, really. Like, are you in a good situation map control? Are you in a bad situation? I do think Ra, and Hades for that matter, far worse with Hades actually, may lead people towards bad playstyles. Because again, don't sit on your ass in your freaking base. You can make that same argument. I understand you can possibly make that same argument with Gaia. Though if you sit on your ass in your base with Gaia, you will, one, run out of resources eventually, certainly food and gold. And two, you'll just leave opponents to get an economy to compete with you and just obliterate you in the long term. Just bear that in mind with Gaia over there. Like, that's the thing. Like, Gaia is not inherently pushing players towards bad play styles. She can, but Ra absolutely has a design that can push people in that respect. Freyr, D tier. Why not F tier? Well, unlike Hades, Freyr doesn't have a passive defense, he has an active defense. His inherent god power, you have to be careful how you use it. If you use it on the first attack wave, okay, great, you summon the boar. Retreat. The enemy just retreats, and you're screwed, basically. The cheaper cost of technologies can help get you going, but at the same time, there is a cost associated with that. The cost is the fact that because things take longer, you're leaving yourself more vulnerable. You might need more buildings, you might need more ox carts, you might need more unit recruitment, because, yeah, you do have upgrades from that, or even blacksmiths. So you do have a bunch of benefits with Freyrs, but also downsides. In fact, I would dare say he's probably a C tier, really, at the very least. A decent choice of god, a good mix of defense, which is obviously going to be comfortable for new players, but not in the sense of like, oh, this is just something I use and it's going to give me an inherent benefit. You can argue about the hill fort, but the enemy can just bypass that. Like, it teaches you to use the placement of that hill fort well, if you're going with Allure in H2, and using the boar properly, and how you handle technology research and build orders. So I think Freyr is a good choice, but he's not necessarily the best choice as a god. 4, yeah, gonna go with D tier for 4. It's not that he's horrible, but 1, like Ra, he's more suited for a long game. And 2, you might think, oh, the dwarves, better dwarves and all that. Don't just spam dwarves. You need gatherers. Like, that's one of the things I would say about 4. People might start playing 4 and they might think, oh, I'm gonna get a bunch of dwarves. Don't! You need freaking gatherers with him. And in a lot of ways, 4 kind of is the weakest of the Norse gods right now, really. I mean, he's well suited for long games, for team games, but not necessarily for 1v1s from that perspective. Loki, an interesting bit of a decision over there. So where would I place Loki? Well, Loki, like 4, is more well suited for long games with all the myth units he has. He doesn't have any inherent economic benefits early on, at the very least. But, there is a but, he does have a good selection of gods, Heimdall in particular, that do reward aggressiveness. And his entire playstyle can reward aggressiveness with myth units, with Herseers. So, B tier, I think so. Like, I can't really place it that high, more highly than that. For team games, it would be a different situation. Then Odin, yeah, S tier. Easy S tier. Odin is both one of the most powerful gods in the game, but also he's powerful in a way, like, if Isis gives you gold, Odin gives you food. So it's kind of the same principle in that respect. You do get regeneration you do get more favor from Longhouse units. You do get better food gathering capabilities from animals. And even though Odin does start in a comfortable position with animals, keep in mind that is just the starting benefit. You are going to be forced, if you want to take full advantage of Odin, to go out there, take control of the map. You will lose long games against other people. Just point that out. Because long term, yeah, food runs out. You can't reuse god powers continuously, all that stuff. Isis could win against, like Isis's gold benefit is very damn significant long term in a long game, like let alone a short game. But like with Odin, you do have this kind of aggressive playstyle. You do have choices like, oh, do you want to go with a full-on assault and use Heimdall's ability to destroy the initial enemy towers and walls and all that if they build them? Or do you want to go with Valkyries and cavalry to harass the enemy? Those are both perfectly valid choices. So great selection of gods, great playstyle, pushes people to have to go out there. If only to hunt animals, really. Like, one of the worst things, as I said, like, one of the worst things you can do in this game is, like, just play the farm game too much. And I do see quite a few people playing the farm game a bit too much over there, like, in the early game. You can go farms earlier or later, depends on that. But the way I personally see it, if you're going for farms early on, you have failed to control the map. And if you fail to control the map, you're giving all of the initiative to your opponent. Odin, by his design, kind of forces you to go out there. Same with Isis, by the way. Like Isis, oh, you get better gold. Yes, but you'll consume the gold mines that you have next to you earlier on, so you have to go further and further and further to really take advantage of her benefit. That's my perspective on that. Maybe I'm full of shit. What do I know about it? But this is just my personal perspective on it. Like, I think Zeus, Isis, Odin are great choices for initial gods. Poseidon and Gaia, really good choices. Gaia kind of lacks the offensive benefits like someone like Odin or even Zeus has. Kronos, Set, and Loki, certain situations great. Yeah. Oranos and Freyr have trade-offs, have benefits, have trade-offs. Thor doesn't quite work. Thor and Rod don't quite work well, and Hades is powerful. He's a well-designed god. Don't get me wrong on this. This is not about which gods are actually good. I emphasize this point again and again. Hades is a good god. He's well-designed. He has a good playstyle. But he's teaching people the wrong lessons. For a veteran player, yeah, Hades is a great choice. For a new player, not really. Costin signing out. Stay tuned for more.